Still looking at a lot of fair weather in Texas, but big changes are on the way coming from the southwestern U.S. And let's take a look at that on the surface map. This is what we have going on this afternoon. We've got a 1002 millibar low in southwestern Idaho and another low there near Gillette, Wyoming. Trailing south, the cold front. It has finally moved out of California. It's taken a few days to do that, but it's located in Arizona from about Prescott down towards Ajo. Behind it, you can see the unsettled, showery weather, temperatures on the cool side, and out ahead of it, some toasty weather, 65 there at Tucson. This here is a bad station plot, so you don't have to worry about that. But with the front moving eastward, the atmospheric river has also shifted to the east. Let's look at that on the water vapor imagery. So we're going to start this out yesterday morning. Back here is the main atmospheric river across California, which is located right there. So if we run this forward, you're going to see it moving very slowly eastward, and then around evening it starts heading out towards the Los Angeles area. I'm going to stop it overnight, and there it is. You can see it right over the LA basin, and it produced a lot of showers in that area. And then we go ahead and roll that forward overnight into this morning. And there it is, translating eastward, a bit of a subsident region following on the backside, and the main upper level low located over the San Joaquin Valley. And going to the very end, this is the setup we have today. Can't see the atmospheric river as much. It has weakened, but it's located about right there. And the big story for today is going to be that river impinging on the Mogollon Rim. So later this afternoon into the evening, we should have some good snow showers developing in that area. Then after that, the river will shut down, and we're going to focus entirely on the Gulf of Mexico. That's what's going to be involved in this system tomorrow. There's some of the grand snowfall totals being reported out of Reno. This is going to be up there in the northern Sierra Nevadas. You can see amounts as high as 107 inches. That's going to be almost 9 feet of snow at Mammoth Mountain. Tahoe City reporting 4 feet of snow. Truckee, of course, near the Donner Party site, almost 4 feet of snow. And the Weather Service office in Reno, just under 2 feet of snow. There's some of the totals coming out of Los Angeles. Sorry we don't have a fancy map, but you can pretty much read it right there. First, our snowfall totals, 16 to 20 inches in some areas. I think these are going to be north of the LA basin. And then there's the rainfalls, 15.31 at Las Tablas. Talked about that yesterday. And there's some of the other data. There's the data coming out of Sacramento. This is strictly precip amounts. Looks like the highest I'm seeing there, 7.54 at Angels Camp in Calaveras County. Soda Springs, 7.69. And both Stockton and nearby Modesto set maximum rainfall records yesterday. There are some additional records in the central San Joaquin Valley, Fresno, Airport, Hanford, Merced. And the Weather Service in Hanford, California, reporting 57 inches of snow deep in the mountains. That's going to be right around here. And that's pretty close to Yosemite Park. And surprisingly, on the lee side of the Sierra Nevadas, a report of 34 inches of snow at Aspendale. Aspendale located right there on the lee side of the Sierra Nevadas. This is normally a very dry area. They don't usually get much snow. Bishop, California, located right there. And there's where things are related to Fresno, Tonopah, and Bakersfield, off down to the south. And here's our setup for Arizona. That main band of precip and low and mid cloud entering the western parts of the state, and that's going to be moving towards Phoenix and Casa Grande, Flagstaff, and we're going to see deteriorating weather in that area. You can see west of there some convective elements with colder temperatures aloft, and that's going to be rain and snow showers and blustery conditions. Already got that back in Las Vegas, all the way down to Needles and Yuma. And this is a look at things right now with the WRF ARW. You can see rain in the lower elevations, and then up on the higher plateau area, some snow showers. And here's how it's going to evolve during the afternoon. Showers and maybe a few thunderstorms breaking out around Phoenix, and those form up into a line. You can see the heavy snow northeast of Phoenix, and things advance very quickly eastward towards Globe, Safford, and that'll be moving into that area around 9 to 10 p.m. tonight. And then towards midnight, it moves into New Mexico. We should see some brief bursts of heavy snow around Gallup down into the mountains south of there, and then by daybreak, things should be moving quickly into eastern New Mexico. And you can see the rapid clearing. This thing really got going. And one of the reasons it took off and bolted eastward is because we have an open wave. It's no longer a closed system like you see there on the east coast. So it's being picked up by the prevailing westerlies and rapidly shifting eastward. Now this is a look at the dynamics where we have the dark blue shades and red. That's where the atmosphere is out of balance. And as we can see, if we advance this forward, there's this evening, and then right here is daybreak. So it rapidly moves into the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles, the highest lift concentrated on western Oklahoma and the eastern panhandles at daybreak, and behind it some strong subsidence across New Mexico. Very likely the cold conditions at the surface coupled with the strong subsidence will produce very strong winds east of Albuquerque towards Amarillo. So anybody that's driving an 18-wheeler through that area tomorrow morning does need to use caution. So here I'm going to show you the impact on New Mexico and Texas starting about midnight tonight. So we're going to focus first on Albuquerque right in that area. You can see that the winds are out of the south, kind of gusty, 20 to 25 knots, and temperatures are in the upper 40s. But coming in from the west, right there on the edge, you can see the cold front. There it is, westerly winds and colder conditions. And it moves right across Albuquerque about 1 to 2 in the morning, and then emerges out onto the higher terrain of eastern New Mexico, Klein's Corner, Santa Rosa, and you can see those winds really starting to pick up as we get into daybreak. I can see sustained 30 to 35 knots, mostly in this area right here. That's Klein's Corner down to Tucumcari. And it's not a very cold wind, but it is gusty, and here we pick up the downslope conditions in West Texas. I'm not sure if the soil is dry enough to pick up dust, but I would see dust being a distinct possibility tomorrow. So the leading edge of the cold front by midday, what we see right here, I think it's going to be running about like that. You can see some very warm conditions out ahead of the front. And let's see if there's any possibility for showers. Looks very forced on the precipitation fields, and it moves very, very quickly to the east. It's already out of East Texas by mid-afternoon, but I'm not seeing much in the way of shower activity, so maybe a few bands of low clouds, maybe some virga here and there, but just not seeing much shower activity except in the Little Rock and Memphis area. And man, this thing booked across all of Texas and Arkansas in just 12 hours. So we should definitely take a look at the peak wind gust. The only source I really know for this is going to be wxcharts.com. They've got some good products there. And we're looking at the NAM 3-kilometer nest. I'm going to run this forward. Now the scale down here at the bottom, this is kilometers per hour, so you need to kind of take that into account. Let's run this forward. Okay, so this is the overnight hours. A lot of the winds you're seeing here, this is in advance of the system since we're starting to get cyclogenesis out to the west. And then we have the front starting to roll into the Albuquerque area right there. So now we're going to watch for the winds to come up even more. You can see them picking up there in eastern New Mexico around dawn. And I'm seeing light purple, which is going to be about 100 to 110 kilometers an hour. So that's about 60 to 70 miles an hour. Going forward into the daytime hours, Amarillo looks like maybe gusts to 50 to 60. Lubbock about the same. And going forward, it doesn't spread too much into Dallas and Oklahoma City, but that red puts it at 70 kilometers an hour, which is going to be about 40 miles per hour. So it is going to be a windy day everywhere from Amarillo to Memphis and down to Waco, Shreveport, and Junction. Around the rest of the country, yeah, there's other parts of the country too. We just haven't gotten to them. We've got a 1036 millibar high across the Great Lakes down to the Midwest. And that's just basically a big blob of cold air covering the Mississippi River eastward. And temperatures are quite cold up there in New York. I know we haven't talked much about New York lately, but they've just had a constant flow of cold air coming in from Quebec and Ontario. This evening or this afternoon, it was 10 degrees in Albany, 24 at New York City, a little bit of cold air advection snow in Binghamton down towards Scranton, and then, let's see, 30 degrees there at Washington, D.C. And then, of course, we need to take a look up north. Let's go check out northern Canada. Now, I did put a little upper air warm front. I think that's where some flow from the Gulf is spreading over the top of the low-level air mass, but it hasn't quite reached down into those levels. So this is going to be some very cold air in the valleys with a strong inversion on top. And it has warmed considerably. Mayo up to minus 20 from minus 42 yesterday, but the Arctic air still is holding on in the Northwest Territories, not quite cleared out. And as we said yesterday, this is not going to be a significant Arctic air pattern for the next few days. It's getting kind of disrupted by all of the energetic flow in the northern latitudes. And we're talking about this band of jet stream energy running from the Gulf of Alaska into Yukon and the Northwest Territories. Arctic air does not really like to build underneath such a strong flow pattern with lots of lift and subsidence kind of shaking up the air masses. But running this forward, what we see is this big trough moving into the northwestern U.S. And meanwhile, that ridge that we talked about yesterday, that's building quite a bit into Alaska. And we're probably going to see that get cut off. Yeah, there's the cutoff high up there north of Alaska. Then we get into this very high amplitude wavy pattern, multiple waves, and that should put the focus back on western Canada and western U.S., and that will allow a period of polar air production up to the north. And as we run that forward, you can see that polar vortex become established near Resolute. Then we do get this current of jet stream energy rolling down from Alaska. However, looks like right in this area we're still able to produce some Arctic air. Then as we get towards the end of the pattern, things are a little bit more up in the air. There are discrepancies between this and the European model, but what we see is a very large long-wave trough across North America. That means that right in the middle, right here, there's going to be favorable conditions for Arctic air production. I don't think much of that's going to make it very far south. It will definitely affect the northern states, but the models have been hinting at southwesterly flow aloft, and with the lead cold front, that's not very favorable for southward progress. However, there are some waves rolling down the backside, and that's going to bring us potential to bring some of the Arctic air down eventually. But that's way out in the future, and I'm not going to really bother with that. And then just for fun and to build our skills, we'll take a look at Europe. We do have a few viewers out there in Germany. The main polar front stream down to the south. We've got a westerly flow. This is not very favorable for bringing in cold air. Much of their cold air into Europe comes from Scandinavia, northern Russia, and we need an easterly flow to bring that in. So this isn't really conducive to that. Let's look at the surface thickness and pressure. And it's certainly stormy. A couple of weather systems heading for France there. Looks like UK is in between systems. There's another, looks like an occluded, well, no, that's slightly baroclinic. There it is right there near Germany. And then we have this wound up occluded system out south of St. Petersburg. Just a very quick look at that. Storm coming into France and taking a southward track towards Italy. And then another round of rain and blustery weather coming in for early next week. How about Asia? I don't think we've ever looked at this sector here. Yeah, there's China and Japan and southern Russia. Looks like a very powerful southern stream running from around Moscow and Novosibirsk out towards Japan. And that's bringing one wave after another, kind of like what we have here in the U.S. And there's typically this blocking around the Himalayas, and south of there we can see a southern stream in place. And in about 2 months from now, when that heating and moisture picks up, that's going to be a potent area for severe weather, especially around Bangladesh. And there's the thickness and pressure. Very easy to pick out those fronts. Yeah, they're going to be running something like that, and then kind of an older, more southward front down in this area right here. So typically when they get cyclogenesis in China, you'll get some isentropic lift. Places like Shanghai and Hong Kong, the weather will go downhill, kind of like what we see in Atlanta on gray days when we've got a weather system out to the west. Very similar pattern. How about Africa? I don't think any of you have ever seen a thickness and pressure chart in that area, but we can take a quick look. We do have some cool air across the Sahara Desert, 1024 millibar high there, and they get some very strong radiational cooling at night, so it's kind of a bit of a plateau high type effect there. Cool conditions, and that drives the thickness line south into the Sahel region. Now, when we look at these tropical areas, we got to think of the intertropical convergence zone where it usually is. Coming out of the winter solstice, that's going to be down in this region right here. The equator right there, so this is the band of maximum heating and maximum precipitation, so right in there. You can see that trough kind of sitting right there in the middle. And for next week, here's a good example of a cold front working into that area. Watch right here north of Libya. That's a front coming in from the western Mediterranean. We run that forward. You can see that thickness packing right there around Benghazi out towards Tripoli. So a front coming south, and that's a reinforcing shot of drier, cooler air coming into the Sahara Desert. Here's another shot coming into that area. So the front's running like that. Looks like a upper level low coming into Libya. And the front's looking like that. So obviously not really enough precip to get storms going or rain going in Egypt, but certainly a powerful weather system in that area. That's going to be Wednesday next week. Yeah, there's a little bit of shower activity. Cold core convection. If anybody wants to chase cold core storms, Wednesday in Libya, that's going to be your day. And that concludes our Friday edition of Forecast Lab. I want to thank our new Patreon supporter, Eddie Holmes. Welcome to the group, and you'll be getting that Monday installment of Forecast Lab straight to your mailbox. And for those of you who aren't supporters, we'll see you back on Tuesday. Hope you all have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.